Welcome to iAccessVO with Brian Fischler and Ed Plumacher. Making it happen with VoiceOver accessibility. And now, here's Brian and Ed.
Welcome back to yet another episode of iAccessVO. And we got more Apple announcements for you. Ed, lots of announcements coming fast and furious. How you doing today?
I'm doing good. Yeah, you know what? It's amazing because I've been speaking to you for about a day and a half, 2 days now. And you're on this like roller coaster tirade about, oh, this is great news. And then you call me back like, this sucks.
Yeah, not to worry, people. We'll be getting to what's pissing Brian off. But we wanted to start off with a positive thing, which was a positive thing, or is it a negative thing? Apple, their latest keynote, they started the whole seminar off with a video about accessibility. That was quite shocking, Ed.
Yeah, no, I thought it was great. I mean, you call me up, you tell me, wow, they started this off with this whole thing on accessibility, and then you say, but guess what? I was lost. I had no idea what you were alluding to, and then you inform me, it's like, it's not described.
Yeah, this is kind of, I guess, the theme for this episode. It's like you're going half in. I'm sitting there and I'm like, well, what's going on now? And there's just nothing, and it ends up a video's playing all about accessibility for everyone, yet it wasn't described.
Well,
a little weird.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't get it. Like you said, it's like half in half the time. It's like, is the glass half empty or is it half full? It's like, can't someone just do it right?
And maybe that's what Apple's trying to do. You know, they announced their new Apple accessibility website, which, if you'd like to check it out, is just apple.com/accessibility. And what do you think about this?
Well, you and I went over this just before the show, and I pulled up the website, and I'm like, hey, well, Brian, the it's posted right here at the top of the page. And, so I'm on my PC, and I'm using Zoom Text, which I use for when we record the show, and all of a sudden you're like, no, there's not. I can't find it. And because there's no link that VoiceOver recognizes to let someone who's blind, visually impaired with no sight know that the video is there. And I think that was a major turnoff for me at that point. I was like, all right, I can understand the no described video thing, but come on, you can't get the link to work with your own accessible technology?
Yeah. Using a Mac with VoiceOver, I searched all around for this video I wanted to see if it did have described video and see what it was all about, but there was nothing there. And this whole website, I think it's great, but it's not like it's trying to get developers to come here. It really just seems a way for Apple to sell more products to people with disabilities, which I think it's great that that they are making an effort, but at the same time, there's nothing on the website about developers and the need to make apps accessible, not just to blindness, to people that are hard of hearing, to people with motor controls. This just really seemed like, here's what we can do for you and sell you if you have this disability. And maybe this is a website that they'll be developing, and we'll see a little bit more in the coming months, but I was a little disappointed. It kind of left a sour taste in my mouth.
Well, I would think, same with me. I would think that, this isn't their first rodeo either. They've been doing this for a while. It's like, I'm tired of hearing that they're trying to do a good job. You know what? Come on, get it right. Guess what? There are people out there who you can hire to make sure it's done right. Hire somebody who's detail oriented and get it done.
Yeah, and I think what really turned me off to this whole website was today when I signed up for a new email list, and I don't have those lists go to my main mail folder because you get 100 emails a day. So I went to iCloud.com, which, several months ago, the last time I used it, it was not a very well-designed site, but I could use it. Well, now it's completely inaccessible to VoiceOver and screen reader users. I walked through this several times. I put it out to other VoiceOver users just to make sure it wasn't user error on my part because, hey, I've jumped the gun before and been wrong about things. I've had at least 6 people confirm with me the site is now completely inaccessible to a VoiceOver user, so you can no longer manage your mail preferences, which, you have to do it on iCloud.com if you want it to sync across multiple Apple devices, and this is just something that's pathetic. It's absolutely pathetic for them to make the site less accessible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I agree. And I'll tell you, I've known for a long time the site is not accessible for JAWS users because, it's one of the things I do when I was teaching people how to use iOS devices, and as someone who can use magnification software like ZoomText or Magic, I'm able to go in there and go into iCloud.com and manipulate my my accounts, my contacts, and things like that. But I can't instruct anybody who's a blind user using JAWS to go in and do that because it doesn't work. It's not accessible.
No, and this latest thing with iCloud, please reach out to accessibility@apple.com. That's an email. Let them know that their iCloud site is completely broken with their own VoiceOver, and this, as you may have guessed, is what's pissing Brian off now. Kind of forgot to mention what was pissing me off before, but hey, it's just mind-boggling to come out with all this stuff about accessibility, 4 days ago, and then you go in and find all this stuff that's inaccessible. I mean, it's really a step backwards.
Yeah, well, you know what, Brian, I'm on that soapbox with you today, so I'm there with you, bud.
Well, not an accessibility issue, but Ed, did you hear that the AirPods will not be coming out by tomorrow, so they will not be meeting their October release?
October release, I mean, I think these things were supposed to be out on, the 20th or the 22nd? Tomorrow's Halloween, the 31st of October, because we're recording this show on a Sunday, and so maybe November, maybe December, who knows?
Any truth to the rumor that I read that they were blowing people's heads up?
I don't know. Maybe there's some reason they're not coming out.
Apple's so secretive about their testing that if they were blowing people's heads up, like the Samsung phones were blowing people up, we didn't even know about it. But that's conspiracy theory. You heard it here first at iAccessVO. If you have a theory on why the Apple Buds, earbuds, AirPods, whatever they're calling these things, will not be coming out.
I don't care what they're calling them. They're called late.
And again, I'm not even that excited about them because until I could confirm that auto pause feature allows me to use one bud in, I'm not buying them. So I got to go in the store and check them out.
About that, because supposedly if you take one earbud out, it'll pause. It'll pause the audio.
Yeah, but if you have a conspiracy theory, do let us know because we like to laugh here at iAccessVO. Tweet us in at iAccessVO and tell us what your theory is about the pods, or you can email us in at iAccessVO@gmail.com.
Oh, okay.
Another thing I read, and I was just going over the news this weekend. I got to get a life and get out of the apartment or something. But I would not be expecting Siri anytime soon as a home assistant, Ed.
Yeah, I mean, you sent me this article, and we had spoken about this, and I know there's been a lot of talk about Apple HomeKit and everything else, but it does not look like they're going to be a major player in this arena. It looks like they're willing to just give the ground away to Amazon and Google.
Yeah, something tells me Tim Cook gets a lot right, but I think he gets this one wrong because, I'm paraphrasing here, but he said something to the extent that people don't, they want to be mobile. They want, they have an assistant on their phone. Why do they need it in their homes? Well, I'll tell you, it's nice just to ask, the Echo devices. I've got the Dot in the bedroom now. What's the weather? Or, now I can listen to MLB games on them and everything. So I think Apple's really, I think they figure they're so far behind that by the time they release the device, everybody's going to have one.
Well, and that's the key here, because like you just mentioned, and you told me this earlier, that MLB just made a deal with Amazon. So now you have Amazon, who has great relationships with all these third-party developers of products that'll interface with the Echo. And all of a sudden now you have major content providers like a major sports entity like Major League Baseball doing a deal. So they're expanding and they're making their presence known. And I know Google has great technology, but word on the street is they're not playing nice with third-party people.
Yeah, well, Google doesn't have a long history, and I know that there's a lot of HomeKit devices that already work with the Echo that we don't know if they'll work with Google. But one thing you and I discussed, though, where Google may take a little bit of a lead over Amazon is if their home device allows you to email.
Yes, yeah, which is one thing that is lacking with the using the Amazon product, because if you can dictate an interface right away with email, and I guess even with some kind of a messaging application where you could even do that through Google Voice or something like that, I mean, it could really expand their presence in the home arena.
Ooh, new conspiracy theory I just thought of right here.
What's that?
Apple is not having Siri to home because it stinks so bad at understanding what you're saying, so it wouldn't be useful for anybody.
Yeah, you seem to have more issues with Siri than most people I know, and I can't figure out what it is.
I don't know. I mean, I don't think I speak that fast, but yeah, I mean, it's just very bizarre. I was really shocked to read this when Tim Cook released a statement about that the other day.
Yeah, and it's you see this more and more. It's like Apple is they're not the lead innovators, but usually they step in and come in with and build a good product to get involved with things. But I'm not sure where this company's direction is right now.
Yeah. Well, one thing that did excite me was some of the new announcements about the Apple TV, and I know you were disappointed because your Apple TV is not getting any of this stuff.
Yeah, not yet. I haven't upgraded from the third generation yet, but sooner or later I'll make that leap, Brian. But this new news you have to talk about is something that may get me moving in that direction.
Yeah, the new Apple TV, or fourth generation Apple TV, is coming out with a new, layout and app called TV, where all your networks, now Netflix is not part of this, but all your networks, and I'm not sure if Hulu is definitely going to be a part of it, but all the network apps will be kind of like Netflix, where when you start watching something, if you pause it, you could resume watching it, or just leave off. It'll know what episode you're on for each show. And it sounded pretty exciting. Did you get to watch the demo at all?
No, I didn't get a chance to see the demo yet. So is this app's going to be for the Apple TV, the tvOS, or is it also going to be an app for the iOS?
It's primarily a tvOS thing. It's also going to be on iOS and your iPad. So it's not on the Mac, not to the Mac.
Right. So the accessibility, hopefully, will be good, being it's going to be on the iOS devices. We'll be able to use VoiceOver.
And part of this sounds very familiar to you and me, because part of it sounds like the fantastic Yahoo video guide on the iPhone, where anytime I want to watch something on the iPhone, I just go to that, type in what I'm looking for, it'll pull up the episodes, and I don't have to worry about a lot of these networks apps not being accessible, having a button that doesn't play, because it'll just ask, would you like us to open this app for you and start playing? You wait a few seconds and it starts playing. And that's what this TV app will do. Hopefully it'll work. I'm assuming because it's coming from Apple, and maybe I should stop assuming things, that it will be accessible. For example, the ABC app on the Apple TV, none of the shows are labeled, so you can't watch them.
Right. So hopefully.
Yeah, well, the question is, I hope it'll include the described video tracks, which, ABC, even though their titles are not described, their content's described, which we still can't figure out why that is. But yeah, no, this is very exciting, and I think this is. I'm just disappointed it won't be coming until December.
Okay, well, we'll wait, check it out, and report back later. So you also told me Twitter came out with their app for the Apple TV, right?
Twitter came out with their app to the Apple TV now. From what I could tell, you don't log into it, which was weird. It's just like famous people tweeting or something, which is about music or movies or sports events is supposed to be the big thing, where you could have a football game playing Thursday Night Football through Twitter and follow along with like Sports Center with stats and stuff like that. Only problem is I tested it out for a few seconds, and I'm listening to a tweet be read to me, and it stopped reading the full tweet and started reading the next tweet, and stopped reading that full tweet and started. So it doesn't work with VoiceOver, the new Twitter experience on the Apple TV. Yeah. So a little disappointed about that. Full disclosure, I only played it around with it for a few minutes because I got frustrated, so I got to put a little more time in it, but I did go in and out, and unfortunately it just seems like it's a continuous reading of tweets, but it doesn't read you the full tweet. So it's like fragmented sentences.
So let me ask you a question then, Brian. So what is the main way you interface now with your Apple TV? If most of the apps are not accessible, how are you?
Well, that's not fair. Not most of the apps are accessible. There's a few. I mean, for example, NBC, Fox, those seem totally accessible. Netflix is completely accessible. Okay. So there is a ton of content that is accessible. We just seem to harp on the ones that have bad accessibility. ABC used to be fully accessible, but then they did a redesign of the app, and gone was content being read to you. It was just now says title for everything. So that's useless. There's 160 titles there.
Those are all just repeats.
No. For example, the ESPN app, you could play the content and everything, and it's just a lot. There's a lot of things that aren't labeled, and there doesn't seem anybody forcing the developers or overseeing to get them to properly build accessibility into the Apple TV apps.
Yeah, and tomorrow's October 31st, which puts us 2 months away from the December 31st deadline when most of this is all supposed to be done, and I don't see any major movement.
No. And one of the other things they talked about with the Apple TV, though, is you'll now be able to ask Siri to play certain sports games, which is pretty cool, and ask Siri what other games are on, and I'm hoping that might take care of some of these ESPN issues because, none of their channels are labeled, so you have no idea what game is on what channel, and they got like 36 channels or something, ESPN.
So have you been able to use Siri to access your Florida Gators yet?
Oh, this is Apple nowadays, man. This isn't Apple 2 years ago when they told you about some new great thing and it came out that day. None of this has arrived yet. It's supposedly coming in December, probably with the AirPods or EarPods. Unified login that they mentioned in April or June, that's still not on the Apple TV, but it's supposedly coming.
You and I we were speaking about this earlier today. When did Apple start talking about things that are coming as opposed to just announcing them? And here it is. They were so secretive. They never released anything in advance, and now they keep talking about, oh yeah, we're going to do this. Oh, this is coming. Oh yeah, we're going to produce this. This is coming. It seems to be a shift in their business model.
Well, that's the difference between Jobs and Tim Cook.
Yeah, it's also a difference between a $150 stock and a $90 stock.
Yeah, well, all I know is I can't afford one share of either of them. Which means I really can't afford the new MacBook Pro. Because we got new MacBooks coming with a whole new design.
Yes, yeah, they're coming out there with the OLED display. No more function keys.
What are they called? Odelay? Odelay!
No, OLED.
Oh, OLED. So it's, can we confirm that it's not the Odelay display? Now, one of the things, the first thing that caught my attention about the MacBook announcements was the scroll pad being twice as large as it used to be, which for Mac newbies might not be a good thing because most of my students with the current trackpad, their wrists are constantly hitting it, moving VoiceOver focus.
Yeah.
Oh, so this is going to be interesting now that it's twice as large.
Yeah, I mean that's not just an issue with the Mac computers. I mean, even the students that I teach that are draw screen readers and everything else using PC PC laptops, based laptops.
Why are they politically correct?
Yep. Yeah. Exactly. So, but a lot of times they have to disable their trackpads because they're using so many keyboard commands, and like you said, the wrists are just brushing up and drives them. They're not mouse users anyway, so it's like, how do we disable this?
Yeah, and to be fair, with the Mac, you could turn the trackpad commander off. So if you're not using gestures and everything, that won't affect it.
That's a pretty easy way to do. The VO key and the rotor, clockwise or counterclockwise, and you can turn.
Look at the big brain on Ed, knowing the commands.
Yeah.
Well, we had, there was some panic when Apple mentioned by the way, that escape key you've been using for the last 50 years? Yeah, that's gone. And F1, F12 keys, those are gone too. But we have gotten, I have seen a confirmation email. It looks legitimate from Apple that the new Touch Bar, which sounds really cool to me, it will work with VoiceOver. And I imagine it's going to work like an iPhone screen works, where you'll have some options, from what I understand, depending on what program you're using, the Touch Bar options will change, which is pretty cool, and you can customize it as well. And I imagine it's going to work just like the iPhone.
Right, and it'll have you'll be able to deal with the slider bar issues by flicking left or right, and once you activate that that function or feature. So it looks good. I mean, and they're saying that you still will have access to function keys. What you'll do is you'll drop down. You'll use there'll be a function and another key command to hit, and then instead of hitting the F1 key, you'll just hit the 1 key. So you can also do it with the keyboard as well.
But my big thing is, what about Command F5? Because that's how you turn VoiceOver on. And I'm going to have to hurry because what my plan is. My plan was, I just haven't gotten around to it, was to get about 20 blind people to go to the Apple store on Fifth Avenue and Command F5 every Apple computer in the store.
And then walk out, right?
Exactly, because no offense, like 90% of the employees have no clue how to turn VoiceOver on and off. We should do that and record it as an episode, man. It'd be epic.
Now, if you really want to do it, but you do that and you turn screen curtain on too.
Oh, that's the plan. That's the plan, man. That would be total anarchy.
Yes, it would, because I tell you, I know
it'd be a great promo for the podcast because I'm sure we'd get some news media coverage out of it.
Yeah, we might even get arrested.
Yeah. So I don't know. You might want to listen to future episodes because maybe we'll be talking about a field trip we'll be taking. But
just make sure we put Lainey Feingold on speed dial in case we need a lawyer.
Yeah. Yeah, that's definitely going to be a call that we'd have to make to her. But I know I am interested to see though what they're doing with the Command F5. I mean, maybe it'll just be Command 5 for.
Well, actually, it's it has you actually use the the OLED bar to turn on VoiceOver.
Yeah, okay. But another cool thing was, they're now having the Touch ID with the power button, and they had a interesting. Some families obviously they have multiple users using a computer, and now the power button will just recognize your finger and instantaneously switch users, which I thought was really cool. So
which is great. I mean, I don't do that. I mean, I learned a long time ago when when you're raising 5 kids is you don't let kids touch your computer. So, but I'm sure there are families or couples that will share a Mac, and that's a great way to do that.
Nash and I have separate accounts, so he puts his paw print down, and he'll be able to switch into his account. So it's just a cool little feature that I thought was pretty interesting.
Well, you know how to keep Nash away from the Mac when you want to use it, don't you?
No.
Open up the jar of peanut butter and stick it in the corner.
That's just teasing, but they've got a. You and I both have the latest keyboard that Apple came out with, which I don't think either of us are fans are, because the keys are like right on top of each other. They're like Manhattan apartments. They're too close to each other, and the arrow keys are just way too tiny considering how much you use the arrow keys with VoiceOver. So I'm interested to see this new keyboard design that's coming to the MacBook Pro as well, because they supposedly said they spaced out the keys a little.
Okay, on the actual MacBook Pro itself.
Yeah.
The Magic Keyboard. I'm not a huge fan, but I like this model better than the previous one. My main reason I like it better, it has a physical switch on it as opposed to dealing with that button on the side.
Yeah, well, I mean, I like the physical switch better, but the typing experience is nowhere as good as it was on the old one. The typing experience on the old keyboard was much more pleasant. But you are right; it is nice to have the physical switch button. And our advice to anybody that's going to be getting one of these MacBook Pros, because it is so different than anything you've used before.
Yeah.
Don't unless you have the money to spend and throw out. And then if you don't like it, let us know, because I'll buy it from you.
Well, I know you're also you were always a huge fan of the Mac Alley Bluetooth keyboard. I mean, that was your go-to device, and unfortunately they discontinued that model. But I recently bought the Canix Bluetooth keyboard. I bought the aluminum version one, and I'm loving it. It's great. I mean, it's a beautiful full size, has a numpad on it, and has the hotkeys so I can switch between four different Bluetooth devices, and it's working well for me. That's
good. That's good to hear. Yeah, just go into the store, check these things out before you buy one of them. Just make sure it's something that you're going to like. And I don't even remember what the release date was of these things, but I imagine they're coming out before what's that holiday coming up in December?
Hanukkah?
No. Nobody buys anything for Hanukkah. Christmas. Yeah.
There you go. Oh, okay. Welcome to my world.
It was a sad day though, man, with all these announcements.
Yeah,
well, a little sad.
Yeah, what are you going to miss?
Bye Mac Air.
There you go.
No new Mac Airs, and I love my 11-inch Mac Air. I mean, it's just great. I mean, it's important. It's super compact, and I was a little disappointed to hear that they won't be. You can still get a Mac Air. The 13-inch, but it's going to be, I guess, last year's model, or the last time they came out with them, and they're not. It doesn't sound like they're going to continue the line. I think they're going to move. They started talking about so many different numbers and screen sizes and everything. From what I understand, like there's going to be MacBook Pros that are moving into what the Mac Airs used to be. They might as well have been speaking Greek, because I just kind of zoned out during that portion of the show. Well, I'm going to say one last sad goodbye to the Mac Air, but anytime a door closes, another door opens. And we have a really exciting guest to welcome in here. She's got a couple titles under her belt, a couple crowns. We're very excited to welcome in Mrs. America, as well as Mrs. World. We'll have to find out which one of those is more important. Mrs. April Lufriu. We'd like to welcome in a very special guest. Like a lot of the people we have on this show, she has multiple titles, but hers are a lot cooler than most of our guests, because her titles are Mrs. America and Mrs. World. How you doing today, April?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
April, welcome to the show. April, nice to have you on.
Thank you.
Now, I had a fun question that I had to ask. What title gets you through the door faster, Mrs. America or Mrs. World?
You know what? I am so glad you asked that, because even though the Mrs. World title is a higher title, every time my husband would say, yeah, my wife here is Mrs. World, they kind of look at me and tilt their head, and they think that he's calling me like a little fun wifey name. And he's like, no, Mrs. World. So I have to say Mrs. America has a stronger presence. They're like, oh, my God, Mrs. America. Mrs. World, they cross their eyes until I explain it.
So in other words,
weird.
you're not wearing your crowns out and about or anything like that.
No, I know. But yeah, Mrs. America's stronger title. Ironically.
There you go. So April, you so just so we let our listeners know, you have like Brian and I both have, you have retinitis pigmentosa also. Were you diagnosed? Did you know you had RP before you competed in the 2012 pageants?
Oh yeah, I was diagnosed at 40, and then when I competed as Mrs. Florida and Mrs. America, I was almost 42, like shy by 3 weeks, 2 weeks. So yeah, it was a challenge because but I have to say when I look back, I couldn't see anybody in the audience, which was a good thing, because if they were looking at me like, ooh, what is she wearing? Or, ooh, what is she doing? I couldn't even feed off of that. So I was really feeding off of the screens and the yelling I was getting from my family. I couldn't see where they were sitting, but my sonar, ears kind of took me. I'm like, oh, okay, they're over there somewhere. But yeah, I did. I had RP. When I was competing, I concentrated so much and entirely on speaking about my children. So a lot of people didn't know I had RP because I just don't ever put myself first. I think it's more a convicting type of story, as a mother fighting for her kids. So my kids were always, first page on anything.
Good.
Well, as someone else who's on stage a lot, I can tell you sometimes it's great not to be able to see the audience.
It is. It's good. So I kind of just fed off of what I could hear. And luckily, because I couldn't see the marks on the floor, where every time you had to go different competition, evening gown or swimsuit. So the floor was checkerboard, white and black checkered. So I actually already had it calculate, okay, that third black one is where I got to go. So I kind of did my own grid where I had to go because I couldn't see the mark. So we actually, we have our moments. I mean, we're human. But for the most part, we actually make fun of ourselves and laugh because you have to. You can't take this serious because what's going to happen? You're going to fall into depression. So, making the fun light of our disability, I think is pretty cool,
I think that's exactly that's what happened to me is when I started losing, my vision now is I have no usable vision, but when I was losing my vision in my 20s, I ended up getting into stand-up comedy, and at first I was in therapy because I was so depressed, and that didn't seem to work for me. It wasn't for me, and what got me out of my funk was actually doing stand-up comedy about what I was going through and everything. So I definitely relate to what you are advising your kids. And, it's something serious and tragic, but, if you get angry all the time, heck, I'm just happy when I end up in the men's room, right, Ed? Not the ladies' room.
You got the perfect excuse to go in the women's bathroom.
Yeah, I thought you were happy.
Oh, and I even have a line. I said, there's nothing in here I haven't seen before.
So true. But going back to what you just said, and I didn't realize this until after I was crowned Mrs. America, and I'm doing all these major speaking engagements and traveling. One day it hit me, and I'm here on stage, always speaking, and I used to tear up a lot more and cry. And after one speaking engagement, I go, you know what? Oh, my God. It like the light bulb went off in my head. I said, I'm saving myself thousands of dollars. I'm giving myself my own therapy. I'm my own psychologist, getting up there, speaking, crying. Okay, I'm happy. Let's go home. And that happened to you. You're on stage doing stand-up comedy and laughing and crying or whatever, and you didn't realize it, but it's therapy. So speaking and talking about your disability is so important.
Oh, it is. And the same thing with me. A lot of that came from me with support groups, and from there I started doing a lot of speaking engagements as well, and I could not get through and engagement without, breaking up at some point during the speech. And you're exactly right. It was good therapy for me to speak about the experience and everything you go through. And, and now it's good. Now I can get up there and give some wonderful presentations, and I don't break up anymore, which is awesome.
Yeah,
he has to just stop walking into the ladies' room after every show. But it's there is a lot of depression with RP. If you're our listeners out there, if you need somebody to talk to, you can email us in, and we'll give you the info at the end of the show and everything. Because I think the great thing that Ed and I have is we're both, even though we're very different people, we have stuff that we can bounce off each other. And I think everybody that's going through RP, everybody's different. That's the weird thing about RP, because some people lose their vision fast, other people lose it very slow, and it's always good to have somebody that's at least going through something similar to you to talk to.
Exactly. Well, when my sister was diagnosed in 89, she was 21 at the time. For all those years up until 2010, she was the only one, and she had tremendous depression. Oh, my goodness. It was like every day she was crying, and it was hard. And after we were diagnosed, she's not as depressed because she feels, okay, I'm not the only one. I'm not singled out here. And we feed off of one another. And she's done, so much better and so much stronger. And I look up to her quite a bit because now she's legally blind, and she doesn't use the cane as much as she should. She can't maneuver around by herself at all. But she's an inspiration, and she calls my son all the time and makes sure he's good. So as a family, we're a great support group.
Now, did we hear that the current Miss America, Miss Florida, is legally blind?
You know what? I haven't heard that. No, I haven't.
Yeah, there's another one out there, because when we were doing the research for this, we came across somebody else who was titled Miss Florida, and it was somebody else that wasn't you, and she's legally blind. So Ed and I were thinking, well, what are they putting in the water down there in Florida?
I know. What's wrong with Florida? I have to figure out I'll Google it and see because there's many systems to pageantry, but the ones that you mostly hear about are the ones that are televised, which are the Miss America and the Miss USA. Those are the big top dogs of pageantry. So right. I don't know if she's one of those big systems, but I'll definitely check it out. I'll reach out to her.
Is this something you did growing up? Did you participate in pageants a lot growing up, or?
I did my first when I was 19 because, every girl's admires the girl that's on stage looking beautiful wearing a tiara. So I did one at 19, and I did Miss Florida USA twice, and I was first runner-up, so I almost went to Miss USA. I traveled abroad and did Miss All Nations, and I represented my parents' country of Honduras, but I didn't know what the heck I was doing. And it wasn't until I actually had a purpose and a meaning to actually going to compete again. That's why I actually went back. I'm like, okay, I know how wonderful this can be. Yeah, there's a lot of negativity out there, but let me change that and let me go out there and prove to everyone that I have an important message to share as a mother. And let me make an impact, and let me develop a wonderful legacy for my children to look back and admire. So that was really my whole purpose for going back. And as a matter of fact, just the other day, they were updating the Mrs. World website, and they had the ugliest photo of me up there. And I went, oh, my God, can you take that down? And they go, okay, well, send me your headshot. And I go, you know what? I don't have one. I was so busy speaking and being so deep into what my passion was, being an advocate for the blind. I never did an official headshot as Mrs. World because it didn't matter to me. I go, people didn't really. Most of the people I was speaking to were blind, so they couldn't see what I looked like anyway. So they were feeding off of my heart and what my message was. So I was like, wow, I regret now I didn't take that official headshot. But I'm sure I had something I could throw their way because the photo on there right now is ugly.
You hear that, people? Mrs. America can take an ugly photo. I didn't know that was possible.
Well, we're our worst critics. It's really not that bad, but to me, I look like I'm shocked. My eyes are wide, and then I have this biggest grin. I don't know. I just don't like it.
Oh, I saw that photo. I thought you just had a margarita.
No, I saw a ghost, huh?
Now, I have to ask, because this just popped into my head, why is it that so many beautiful women twirl batons?
Not this one. I can't even dance. What are you talking about? Or sing.
I just remember every time I would watch one of the pageants when I was a kid, they were always swirling batons for some reason, and it just stood out to me.
I know.
But no,
I think that was the Miss America system. They did have a lot of baton twirlers.
Hey, Brian, you remember the Seinfeld episode where Kramer becomes the coach for one of the beauty pageants?
Oh, of course, it's a classic.
I missed that one. Are you kidding? I gotta Google that.
That's a great episode.
And he accidentally kills her pigeons, I think.
Her doves or something like that. Yeah.
Her doves. That's right.
While he was baton twirling.
No, yeah, she did. Was there baton twirling in that? Ed, do you remember?
I don't remember.
I think she might have twirled a baton at the end because they needed to find out a performance or something, or
something like that. Yeah.
I don't know. It was very funny. If you get a chance and you can find that, it's quite funny. But how do you find that your titles, both of them, Mrs. Universe?
Nope.
No, pardon me, Mrs. World. Oh, you see, I just gave you a new title.
I get that all the time, too. I'm like, yeah, okay. I accept that one as well.
Well, when you have Mrs. America and Mrs. World, you might as well just call you Mrs. Universe. So I was doing that for you. But how do you find those titles? Exactly. How do you find those titles help you with raising awareness about retinitis pigmentosa?
Huge. It's amazing because I could be, for instance, I had to reach out to several newspaper, magazine, publishing companies to publish stories. That was one of my big things is, okay, as a title holder, you got to learn to advocate and be your own media source. So I would just find these certain magazines that I wanted to target. All I had to do is put in that memo message area on your email. It says Mrs. World or Mrs. America. Oh, my God, I was getting a reply like in seconds. Oh, yeah, what do you have to share? If it would have been like, hi, I'm a mom fighting blindness. My name is April. Next. It's huge. You wouldn't believe the doors. It's a big, big springboard.
Well, I know you're a huge spokesman for the Foundation Fighting Blindness, which gives you a platform for which to promote awareness. So that, and I guess having the title does help you get out there and get that word out.
Oh, and they were an instrumental part of getting me out there and flying me all over the place and being their spokesperson and speaking on their behalf. It was a wonderful, wonderful time working with them, and I still work with them hand in hand, but I commend a lot of my exposure to FFB and for them having me as their spokesperson. And our family was like the poster family, during my reign. So I thank them very much for that.
Well, that's a good segue there. Any advice to parents who may have recently had a child diagnosed with RP?
The best advice would be to totally reach out to anyone locally in their community that has the same issue. As we just spoke about earlier, being in a community and bouncing off one another, you don't feel alone and you won't feel as scared. And you learn so much. I've learned, a new retinal specialist or an ophthalmologist, where you learn about all these amazing clinical trials of stem cells and gene therapy taking place out there. So it's educational and it's emotional, definitely beneficial to everyone to just go out there in the community and find somebody that has the same thing.
Right, and if you live in a rural area where you don't have someone like that, I know social media, Facebook has been a great place for connecting with other blind, visually impaired people with various conditions, whether it's retinitis pigmentosa, glaucoma, macular degeneration. I mean, there are scores of groups for all types of blindness.
I agree. There's so many different groups. Yes, you're correct.
Ed's a member of 84 different blindness groups.
84? I was going to ask how many were out there. There's a tremendous amount.
Yeah, actually, Brian, I think it's 112 now, Brian, and growing.
Well, is it up to 112? On that note, I do have to give a shout-out to my favorite blindness group, which is the Blind Bankers of India, which they do follow our show, so we wanted to say hey to them. But
hey.
There's a blindness group. Exactly. There's a blindness group for everything.
Well, that's perfect. And I have to say, social media, and I have people that message me privately all the time, weekly, asking me advice on different things. So it's really nice to know that they look up to me and really respect my opinion. And you know, I'm like, hey, I'm here. Mm-hmm. And I even give out my phone number. Call me. If you need a talk, call me.
Well, I would imagine, like, anyone who has a young daughter that is experiencing this, I mean, it would be great for them to at least have access to some kind of communication with you. Just, you know, because it's tough being an adolescent or a tween to begin with, but to be, you know, fighting this condition, you know, it's hard, you know, and it's good to see someone who is dealing with it, who's well-rounded, well-respected, and is a good advocate for it.
Thank you. But like you said, we have our, you know, human motions, and we do break down. I mean, I had a huge speaking engagement last Saturday for the Lion's Eye, and they were smart in how they did their presenting with each speaker. Actually, I didn't know I was going to be the guest speaker, and I came totally unprepared. I thought I was going to go on stage and say thank you, support them, yada, yada, yada. And I'm sitting at the jumbo screen, and I didn't have my glasses on or anything, and I saw my face, and I nudged my husband. I go, what did I say? Did I say guest speaker? I said, holy cow. Oh, I'm not ready for that. I was like, oh, okay, April, this is not your first rodeo. You got this. But what we did, like a couple months prior, they had us do a video, you know, telling our story. Because a lot of times if you get on stage, you assume people know your whole story and you kind of miss the important aspects. So they played the video right before I went up to speak, and I'm talking about my kids. I was emotional. I was crying. And when I got on stage, I didn't know what the hell I was going to say. But because I was crying and so emotional, it was the best speech I've ever given because it was raw. Mm-hmm. And I targeted everyone there, and they did a tremendous amount of fundraising. So it was great. So I still have
That's fantastic.
Yeah, it was.
What any plans for the upcoming or the future that you have going on?
Still doing a lot of advocating for the blind, but now, Brian, you can give me some pointers. I'm actually doing a lot of acting and modeling, and all this kind of just branched off into that, and I love it. It's kind of challenging doing the teleprompter, so memorizing scripts have to come into play. Yeah. At Home Shopping Network, I'm there quite a bit. They're always having to wait at me. Hey, over here, you know, this camera, because I miss which camera's on me. But yeah, it always works out. So I'm really, really enjoying that. So that's kind of where I'm leading now, is in the entertainment aspect. And then still running my granite company. And so I go from construction to glamorous.
It sounds like Tim the Tool Man, what was that show, Home Improvement or something like that. You know who got her start on that show was Pam Anderson, actually. She was the first tool girl on that show and everything. But
look at that.
Well, that's.
And she was good at candy, too.
Well, why don't you tell our listeners where you are on Twitter or Facebook, or what's the best way to keep up with you, follow along with what you're doing, or if they want to reach out to you, that sort of thing?
All right. Well, my husband calls me Mrs. Facebook, so I guess that's my new title. Follow me on Facebook at April Lufriu. I have a public and I have a regular personal page. I'm also on Instagram at April Lufriu. I keep it simple. And I have a website as well. So if you want to contact me via email, it's aprillufriu.net and also .biz. And, I think that's probably the best way. I don't do Snapchat. I have not figured that out. Twitter, to me, is too confusing.
No Snapchat, no Instagram. It's like, oh, forget it.
Yeah,
Instagram. It is. To my Instagram, I'm figuring out pretty good. The Snapchat, on my phone, I feel dumb. I don't know where to go. All I do is see my face on the camera. I'm like, what do I do next? This is weird.
Well, you told me a funny story in a conversation we had earlier today about your iPhone. Is that because your central vision is still fairly good, so you use just Zoom, I guess, or not even Zoom. You just use the very large fonts on your phone. And you were telling me how you're sitting in the front seat and the people in the back seat of the car are able to read your text messages.
Yes, and it was the kids. So I'm here, with the kids in the back, and I'm here sending a message thinking I'm being private. And they're like, who's that? Who are you? I'm like, how do you know who I'm... Well, April is pretty darn big. It's on the largest font.
Well, April, this was a real treat, and we're going to keep up following all the good work that you're doing, and hopefully we'll be hearing more news from you down the road.
Well, thank you. It was an honor to be on your show. Thank you so much for asking, and best of luck to you guys, for sure, for everything that you're doing. You guys are an inspiration to many, so, pat yourself on the back.
Well, thank you, April. We really appreciate it. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome, hon.
Thanks so much.
You're welcome. Have a great one.
Great,
bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Perfect. Bye-bye.
You're listening to Brian and Ed on iAccessVO.
Well, that was Mrs. April Lufriu. Pretty interesting. That's got to be rough, though, having that many family members who have one eye disease, Ed.
Yeah, it's like that, and I do have a lot of friends that this is the type of thing that it's a degenerative eye disease, but it's genetic in nature for many people, and it can affect many family members from many generations. So it's I think April's kids are very lucky. They have a mom who's out there promoting and creating awareness, and she's a good role model for them, and she's a good role model for a lot of people out there who are afflicted by this disease.
Yeah, no, they've got a great little support system there and everything, and I just have a sister that I don't talk to, so but no, that's great. And so, Ed, have you heard about this new two-step identification thing that Apple's got going on?
Yeah, you were telling me about it, and it was one. We almost could have put this in what's pissing Brian off.
Yeah, because I just started searching, today. I've been dealing with it for the last few days, and it drives me bonkers because I'm trying to do something on the computer, and I go to sign into the iCloud account that doesn't work. And sure enough, it's, well, first, let me make sure you enter this 6-digit code. And, of course, VoiceOver doesn't put you focused on the code on the computer. So you got to move around and find it, and it's 6 boxes. It's a very weird layout. And the iPhone, instead of putting you at the first number, it puts you at the OK button. So then you got to flick back to the left 7 times to get to the first number. It's just not a very well laid out process for a VoiceOver user. And honestly, I'm not that worried about somebody hacking my account. I've been very fortunate. I don't see the need for it.
So which irritates you more at this point, the new two-step authentication or running into a CAPTCHA?
Well, CAPTCHAs are that's like Nazi Germany 1945, so I'd have to go with the CAPTCHAs, man. Those are just evil people that put CAPTCHAs on their website. By the way, I went to file a complaint on New York 311 because I was having a noise complaint that I've been dealing with for 2 years, and I finally said enough. So it's not like, it's not like this is a new thing. I don't have to handle it one little thing. And I use the whole NY311 app, and I go through the whole thing, name, complaint, blah, blah, and it gets to the final step, submit. First we have to have a CAPTCHA, and guess what? There was no audio CAPTCHA whatsoever.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
I got to tell you, I actually helped a student the other day fill an application out for Ski for Light, which is a program that does cross-country skiing. So, he was having some difficulty. He's a JAWS user. And we get through the whole thing, and rather than have a CAPTCHA, it had a simple math question. what's 3 plus 2? And all you had to do is enter in the answer. So, if you're a math challenge, you might have had more of an issue with it, but no CAPTCHA and no crappy audio to try and listen to. It was, it was clean, it was simple, and it worked.
Well, it's funny because, I know several sighted people where they get them wrong all the time because they're written in such a way that, even a fully sighted person sometimes has trouble seeing them.
I know. I've done that. I've asked for sighted assistants to deal with it, and it takes 2 or 3 attempts sometimes and they say, no, it's just I can't tell if this is, if it's a 3 or if it's or what it is, or an 8, and because they're just, they make it so distorted from what it should look like, and it takes some time.
And I'd love to know what this is really preventing. It's just. I have no idea what it's preventing. It just seems like a giant waste of time, and it angers me to no end. Anytime I get a CAPTCHA.
Yeah, well, I guess what it does prevent is it prevents somebody from loading up your system with bogus information.
It's funny because when we first got the charity benefit I wrote, when we first got the Laugh for Sight website up and running, the guy that designed the site, I went to check it out and everything. I went to see how you could email us if you want to get in touch with us. He put a CAPTCHA on the website. I said, no. So for about a day, we had a CAPTCHA. I said, you got to get rid of that. He said, oh, I thought you were on it so people can't spam you with emails. And you know what? We get spam, but it's like 10, 20 emails or something. It's not the end of the world and everything.
Right, that's like 10, 20 a year, I would think, right?
Yeah. No, a little more than that. But you just delete it. But no, we've got a Laugh for Sight benefit coming up for you if you're going to be in the New York City area. And we've got some big news. It's coming Monday, December 5th at Gotham Comedy Club. Tickets are now currently on sale, and legendary comedian Robert Klein, who knows, maybe he will end up on a podcast one day, he'll be making his 10th appearance at this year's benefit. We have Joy Behar from The View, who I know a lot of people are very excited to see. Jessica Kirson, who's performed at the benefit a few times in the past, and is just, if you haven't seen her, you're going to want to, if you can't make it to the show, Google her, check out some of the YouTube videos. Stacy Pressman, Allie Klein, Daryl Wright, myself, of course, Nash, and we'll probably be adding another surprise guest or maybe 2 and everything. It's really shaping up to be a spectacular benefit. Are you going to make it this year, Ed?
I'll be there, yeah. No, that's a good lineup this year. You have a lot more women this year than you've had in the past.
We do. That was one thing I wanted to work on was better demographics and everything. No, we've had Jessica and Stacy have done the benefit before, and this is Joy's first year doing it. We're very excited about having her, and it should be a great show. Tickets are on sale now. They're $40 for general admission plus the 2-drink minimum. Or if you're a big drinker, you get $125 for VIP seating and open bar, and you can get tickets by calling 212-367-9000. You could go to laughforsight.com and click through to the link there to Gotham Comedy Club's website, or you could go to gothamcomedyclub.com to buy tickets, and multiple ways to get tickets. You can also email in if you're having any kind of issues with anything. Email info@laughforsight.com, and we'll help you get tickets. And we've got a lot of other things going on this year because we are partnering with the Mayor's Alliance for New York City Animals, and we will be having a disabled dog adoption prior to the benefit, so that should be something pretty special. We'll have some dogs down there for you, some people from some of the different rescues here in the city. So if you ever thought about rescuing a dog, it'd be a great place to get some questions asked. And, of course, we'll be having our silent auction, which we are very excited is being held this year by the American Fundraising Foundation, and they've put together some once-in-a-lifetime packages you won't be able to get anywhere else. So we're real excited that this year is going to be the biggest and best yet.
No, that's awesome. That's awesome. And you know what? There's one other person will be there. I hope he's giving out autographs this year is Nash.
I mentioned Nash.
Yeah, but I'm saying, if people want an autograph, go up to Ned.
Yeah, he gives paw prints, and we also actually will be having several paintings as part of the auction this year of all dogs and cats. So, real animal fest this year and everything.
Are you doing the Nash T-shirts again this year?
We still have some of those left over from last year, so we'll probably be giving away or selling some T-shirts and everything. That was a thing we did last year for the 10-year anniversary, just, special 10-year show and everything. So, but no.
It's a great show. It's a great cause, Brian. I know you work very hard at this, and hopefully a lot of our listeners will be out there supporting you again this year.
Yeah, no, it'd be great. We always have a good time, and it's a very special night, and everybody always seems to have a good time. And all the comedians, we really got to give them a big shout out because they're donating their time. So, I'm the only one getting paid the big bucks. Kidding. So what's this, Ed? Episode 28?
Yes, sir. Episode 28 in the books.
Hard to believe, we'll be turning 30 soon.
There you go. So on that note,
we are out.
You have been listening to iAccessVO. If you'd like to contact us with ideas and suggestions for future podcasts, please email us at iAccessVO@gmail.com or visit our website at www.accessquest.org.